Good morning. This is H coming at you with another Inventor 2023 tool tutorial video. That's a mouthful, but it's going to be all about the hole tool. This time looking at creating holes using the hole tool and what that means and what that entails. So right now on my screen, what you're seeing is a sketch of a part file that we're creating and using in order to kind of practice the hole tool here and to see what it can do. So take a moment, pause the screen if you're going to make this to like follow along and kind of go through what we're doing. But pause the screen here, create this sketch, and we'll go on from there with using the hole tool. All right, welcome back from the pause. If you paused it, awesome. If not, we're going to continue on. And we have our finished sketch. Now this extrusion here, we're extruding this feature, this 30 millimeters. Okay, so 30 millimeters, just to give us a nice solid like platform base to start from. Okay, so let's go to the hole tool. Let's look at it real quickly. So this hole tool creates holes based upon sketch points or other geometric selections. So again, this is important because the hole tool does work best if you actually are working from a sketch. Okay, this is important. You can create simple, clearance, tapped, taper, tapped holes, all sorts of different stuff that you can do, counterbores, countersink, spot face. All that is there in the description of this tool. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click on it, and it's not going to be able to really do much because, again, we don't have any positions to select. We don't have a sketch. Okay, now we could just randomly pick a spot. Like it is possible to do that, but then your part file is probably going to end up being wrong and not exact of what you need it to be. Okay, so the hole tool, the input geometry is a selected position. This could be a point. The easiest thing to use is a point, but it could be other things as well. Now the type are different holes. So you have a simple hole with really it's just a circle that's been cut, extruded through, a simple hole. Then you have this one here, clearance hole. So it's going to have some clearance, some tolerance things worked into it. Something that's tapped so that it actually has some type of threading. It's tapped hole. And then a taper tapped hole. Tapering means it has that angle opening. And of course, tapped means that it has the threads in there for threaded screws. Okay. And then you have the seat and what the seat looks like. You could have no seat at all. You got the counter bore seat, and notice the picture changes down here of the behavior. You have a spot face seat, or you could have the countersink seat. That's your countersink, and it appears, which is really nice. The hole tool will give you the names of all those seats and all those things. You just let your mouse kind of wander and hold for a moment and go through, and you can see like which each thing is doing, and if it's a drill point or if it's flat, and all those different options that exist for sure. Okay, so that's the hole tool in a quick overview, but we're going to use it here. We're going to start a sketch here on this plate, and we're going to make some holes where they are centered on the center dot of these fillets in these corners, kind of like this plate, the screw hole, so this plate can be like bolted down to the wall or whatever, and in the center of those fillets is where the screw or the bolt hole needs to go. So if I go to my point tool, just click on it to activate it and go to this fillet edge. And if I just put my mouse there just for a moment, it's going to highlight it. So it's highlighted now. And more than that, it gives me this black dot that's right there. I just went on top of it with my green dot, and that is the center point of that fillet. So I can click on that, and now I know this dot is centered on that same center point of the fillet. And I can go over here and do the same thing, and down this one, and the same thing. And again, I can get pretty quick at it. I can do it pretty quickly because, again, I'm just highlighting the edge, clicking, highlighting the edge, clicking, and now I'm finishing the sketch. So I have these 4 points here, and if I go to my hole tool now, it's going to automatically select those points. And the hole is centered on that point. And so now, and it says 4 positions right here. And so now I can determine, well, what kind of hole are these supposed to be? Like, what is going on here? So we can have a simple, a simple hole is pretty much the most common one, especially on the certification exam. And then you can have counter bore, spot face, or counter sink, but again, counter bore here. And then you can change these dimensions, right? You can say, what's the termination? If it's going to go through the entire plate, like through all, you can just go through all, and then it's not going to give you the length, like the depth of this like 1.25 inch. It's if I go through all, that's gone. That option's gone. So the behavior here, the termination is going to determine like what picture is being shown, right? Also, what seat type is what picture is going to be shown, and what dimensions and information you have to add into that. Okay, so if I go to counter bore, there are different counter bore dimensions you need to know about. This one here is the counter bore diameter, which is the diameter of the larger opening circle that is there. So this larger opening circle, let's set this at 25 millimeters. Right, we'll just make sure that it's mm and we should be good, right? So that sets it at that. We can see that previewing there. Now this too, this is the depth of how deep this counter bore seat goes in depth before it gets to the clearance hole, the actual hole of where the bolt or screw is going to go. So this depth here, we can make this, let's make this 8, right? And so now we can see it. We can see a bit better on these ones here rather than this first one. We can see that that's being cut. And now this diameter of this hole here. Now watch this. I'm going to do a little issue. I'm going to make this 30, and you're immediately going to see issue, right? This hole must be, see, the value must be smaller than the counter bore diameter, right? So if we make this 10, then we're good, right? This diameter of this hole has to be a smaller value, and Inventor will give you the warning, the exclamation point, as far as making sure that that's the case. So once we enter the values of whatever we're making, whatever we're drawing, there's going to be values given about what type of hole we're making. In this case, we're making a counter bore hole that goes through all the material, and the counter bore diameter is 25. The counter bore depth was 8 millimeters. The diameter of the clearance hole, or the diameter of the hole, was 10 millimeters, right? And so all this information is going to be given to you in some type of part file drawing, and then you just plug in the numbers, okay? And the same is true if you're given one. Typically, countersink is the other version, but spot face works the same way as the counter bore. Just it's much skinnier, and you can see there's already errors there, right? But the countersink is the same idea. Countersink, you're going to have what is the hole clearance, what's the angle. Maybe the countersink angle might be different depending upon the bolt, and then the diameter here. And of course, if we needed to not go all the way through the part and only down like 20 millimeters, we can change that in the termination behavior of the whole tool. Okay, so once we have like the information we need, in this case, 25, 84 degrees, 20 millimeters down, 10 millimeters across, I can click OK, and that makes all 4 of those holes, right? And that's the whole tool. Again, it's just gonna vary. It's gonna depend upon what type of hole, what seat, and what type of hole you're gonna be needing to create on your part file creation, or on the Inventor certification exam. If you're looking at taking one of those, you're always looking for the whole tool, what seat you're using, making sure you get the information, the numbers put into the right locations here in the pictorial, and of course making sure your behavior termination is correct, your drill point, all that stuff will be entered in correctly before you hit the OK button. Okay, and that is the whole tool. Fairly simple. Again, the most important idea being start from a sketch. Put the points where the hole needs to go, no matter where that is. In this case, we put them in the center of the fillet. If it needed to be out here in the middle, draw the sketch, put the point here in the middle, and do the dimensions that are necessary. Okay, and thank you for watching. You all have a great day.